Hello and welcome back to India on 99.94, your home of Indian cricket content. As always, I'm Nikesh Ragani, BBC commentator, alongside my co-host Sarah Warris of Wisden. And we join you off the back of a very disappointing couple of ODI games in Bangladesh for the Indian men's team. 2 matches, 2 defeats, 2 embarrassing defeats as well. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's getting beyond a joke now, India's white ball cricket, not just because of the T20 World Cup exit at the semi-final stage, which the outside world might consider, not a bad result. Anything can happen in knockout matches. They got through to the semis. They were 2 matches away from potentially winning it. But the problems are deeper than that. And I almost think that it's a good thing that India have gone to Bangladesh and lost these 2 matches, because they almost won both of them from very difficult situations. The first match, just not enough runs on the board. How can you score 180 odd in an ODI these days and expect to win? You can't. They almost did. They got Bangladesh 9 down with 50 required to win. I love Team India more than anyone in the world, but I think for the long-term good of the game, it's almost good that they lost that first one, because all those problems would have been swept under the carpet. And the same, Sarah, with the second one. Rohit Sharma's heroics at the end, coming in with his dislocated thumb, and, really heroic effort to come out there. Beautiful innings from him down at number 9. But in the end, they fell short once again, and it's the same old problems. Top order batting, can't clean up the tail with the ball. Will this story ever change?
You are talking about that, this should be an eye-opener for them. Will it really be an eye-opener for them? Or are they, too sucked in their ego that they are going to be like, okay, yeah, we nearly won and all's fine and everything. You never know with Indian cricket. Is just, just too much, too egoistic. We are the richest board. We are fine off as it is. But since the Asia Cup, before the Asia Cup right now, looking back, I can't even imagine. I said that, Asia Cup, India is going to have a very comfortable victory. Things were so rosy back then, and within a couple of months, it's just changed so much that I'm not dreading the 2023 World Cup, because if things don't change now, 2023 World Cup, even though you say that it's 8-9 months away, there are just a couple, not couple, but there are very few matches left, and there are just so many answers that we are looking for. How is that going to even be possible? Who are the 20-25 players? Who is the first choice people in your squad? Till a few years ago, before any world event, we could all, just sit down and make a list of 15, at least 20-25 players who would, not even 25, 20 players, we would know that, these are in your squad, and a few of them would be unfortunate to miss out. Right now, we have around 30 players lurking in the scene. A few of them, maybe 5 of them, the Kohlis and the Rohit Sharmas and the Bumrahs, they are fixed. Hardik Pandyas, they are fixed in your ODI team. But there are just so many options, and who is you don't know who is your first choice player, who is your first choice team. You don't know that with 8-9 months to go, which is just, scary as an Indian cricket fan.
I mean, look, it's not unusual for teams to go to Bangladesh and lose ODI series. They've won 12 out of their last 13 series at home. The only loss was against England, and we've seen how good they are in white ball cricket. They've beaten everybody. They've beaten India twice now. They've beaten Pakistan. They've beaten Sri Lanka. They've beaten Australia. You name it. They win these ODI series against everybody at home. So they know the conditions, and they're very strong in front of their home crowd. They're a much improved side in home conditions over the last few years, and you have to give huge respect to them for that. But you're talking here about an India side where just a year, 18 months, maybe 2 years ago, the whole world was reveling at the amount of talent, the strength in depth that India have got. I mean, that's turning out to be a bit of a problem as well, isn't it? Because a lot of the fringe players are not getting their opportunities on the biggest stage, in the biggest series, in the biggest tournaments, World Cups and things, because the so-called superstars are still there and they hold on to their places. There's almost like a generation that's not going to get to play enough international cricket just because there's these so-called superstars ahead of them. So there's that. But then even if you do put everybody into the mix, it's difficult to come up with that correct combination. It shouldn't be that difficult, but they seem to be finding it difficult to come up with the right combination. But ultimately, Sarah, they just keep going back to what they know best and what they feel secure with. It's so frustrating from what we see. Shikhar Dhawan, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, top of the order. I mean,
They've not scored 100 since 2020.
Yeah.
The top three. Yeah.
There you go. Right? But then they have the odd 50 partnership or whatever, and then that stat comes on the screen, doesn't it? Of best partnerships in ODI history in terms of runs scored. And Shikhar and Rohit are there in the top 4 or 5. So, when you see the names around them as well, you see Ganguly and Tendulkar, and you see Greenidge and Haynes, and you see Hayden and Gilchrist and all these guys up there. People all of a sudden think, well, actually, another 50 partnership. These two are great together. Let's just keep going on and on, until they drop almost. But you've got to look at Shikhar Dhawan. We've talked about his stats, strike rate of 75 in the last year, hasn't been scoring runs, just doesn't look, he looks a shadow of his former self, and he's getting on in years as well. Is he the right man to lead India at the top of the order in that World Cup in 2023? Probably not at the moment, but they just seem so safe with these guys. That's the problem.
Yeah, a few podcasts earlier, when they had picked Shami, we had spoken at length about, just bringing in, just be bold when you're going into a world event. It might backfire, but at least you'd have tried something and it would have backfired then. Yesterday I tweeted something that, depth is not an issue. The commentators were saying that Umran Malik yesterday, he started off well, in the end gave away a few runs, but started off well. He wasn't even in the squad. He came in as a replacement for Shami, who was injured, and then Umran Malik came in and had a decent game yesterday. So the commentators were like, wow, India's depth is so amazing and the bench strength is so strong. That's never been an issue with the Indian team. The issue is, identifying them and just giving them a longer rope. If you just look at the example of Shubman Gill, why is he not there in Bangladesh team, Bangladesh squad? What has he done wrong? He's been in fantastic form this year. Are you saying that he deserves to be rested? I don't see why someone so young, early 20s, needs to be rested, with just a few months to go for the World Cup. And also what I think is, with so much of changes and, rest, every alternate series, there's a whole different squad that's playing. With that, what's happening is that the players who are playing, they are more interested in cementing their places in the team rather than, just being like, okay, this is the squad and this is my role and there's a clarity in my role. So someone like a Shikhar Dhawan, probably, I'm not saying that he is doing that, age is catching up with him and all that, but, he knows that someone like a Gill is round the corner. So probably he's just looking at making runs and not the strike rate and, just looking at cementing his place in the team and edging out Gill. And this can be happening with a lot of other players as well. You look at the fast bowling department, there are so many players there, but not a fixed, who is your fast bowling. If you tell me who are your top 5 fast bowlers who are going to play in the 2023 World Cup, we don't know that because it can just totally change. Kuldeep Sen played one match, he made his debut, and the next match he's dropped. At least give him a longer rope. It's just right now it's just getting so bizarre. And one more thing, I don't know if you've noticed that a press conference after the first match, Rohit Sharma was asked that something about the 2023 World Cup and the preparations for it, and his answer was, there are still 8-9 months to go for it and we're not thinking too far ahead. which is just bizarre to me because Dhoni, after 2011, he had said that, just after the 2011 World Cup, which India won, the preparations for 2015 began. And so they eased out Harbhajan Singh, they eased out the likes of Sehwag. They are upset now. They keep on saying that, we didn't do anything wrong. We were eased out. But Dhoni said that, our preparation began right then. And with 8-9 months to go, Rohit Sharma is like, we don't have a squad yet. We are not thinking too far ahead, which is just bizarre to me. And if you see someone like England, they were so desperate after 2015. They were so desperate, they got in Archer, they cleared his participation for them before the World Cup, they gave him a chance and all that. So, uh, is India team lacking that desperation or whatever it is? It's just bizarre right now.
Yeah, and you talk about Archer there with England. That was the final piece of the puzzle, really. All the rest of the plans were already in place, and they could have potentially won that World Cup without Archer, the way they were playing and beating everybody else in the years before that as well. But yeah, just that real fine detail which is lacking from India at the moment. I just want to ask you something before we go for a short break. Rohit Sharma coming in at number 9. Of course, he had a broken thumb, or not broken thumb, thankfully, actually. The first scan revealed no fracture, so it's dislocated, it's obviously bruised and battered, and there's doubts about him and his participation now in the Test series in Bangladesh, which is probably a bigger blow than him missing these white ball bilateral series at the moment. But the way he played, it was almost like a nothing to lose situation anyway. So he had that freedom. But for years, Rohit Sharma was playing in the middle order for India. When he first came into the side, there wasn't a slot for him at the top of the order. He came in the middle. He was a bit on and off. We saw flashes of brilliance. And then we saw him, almost quite often race to these 20s and 30s and get it, out in a really stupid freak kind of way, just playing one too many shots. He's obviously matured since then, but just given the fact that he's going to be the captain going into the next World Cup, he's got a lot of pressure on him. There are a lot of capable batters in India, potentially top order batters, more so than middle order batters. Could he drop down and play that finisher's role? Because he played it brilliantly in that second ODI. And look, the game was lost, and he took India so close single-handedly, really. I know there were a couple of partnerships and stuff, and, Akshar Patel played brilliantly as well with Shreyas Iyer before that. But right there at the end, it was Rohit Sharma against the world, and he almost did it. And this is a man who might have been a bit angry because of the injury that he suffered and like the wounded tiger or whatever. But there was shades of like Anil Kumble as well, him just coming out, being so brave. And, when Anil Kumble bowled with that broken jaw in the West Indies, so gallantly. Shades of that as well. So real bravery anyway, which is great to see. But just the fact that he finishes pretty well by the looks of it. Should he be dropped down? Should he drop himself down to the middle order? That would solve a big problem.
Yeah, there was a tongue-in-cheek tweet from a colleague of mine yesterday at Wisden who was like, did Dhoni actually ruin Rohit Sharma's career by making him an opener? Obviously, tongue-in-cheek. But yeah, I don't want any more like hassles in the Indian team right now. If Rohit Sharma drops down the order, a lot of mess is again going to be created. So we already have a lot of issues to solve. For right now, it's fine if he's patting up the order, because one less headache for them, because,
Fair enough. Right, we'll take a short break, and then we'll just, off the back of that, discuss if India playing too much cricket is the real problem.
You're listening to Cricket's Conversation on 99.94. Whatever your team, we have the show for you on podcast, YouTube, or on the 99.94 app. We have India, England, South Africa, West Indies, and now Sri Lanka covered. If you want to find us, the best way is to follow us on social media at 9994DM by downloading the 9994 app or Google 99.94 on podcast. We speak cricket.
So the series is gone. Look, I don't know if there's as much interest in this series over in India. You can Tell me, Sarah, were people excited ahead of the Bangladesh series and even the New Zealand series, or is it fans even getting a bit bored now?
No one was excited for Bangladesh series. I don't think half of them even saw the New Zealand series. Bangladesh series, now they are like, they have opened up to the series because of the series defeat. But if they would have won, it would have been like, yeah, okay, they won, just a routine series. So you're right, there is too much of cricket going on. And what is the solution for that? Like, do you think, how can the Indian team tackle that going forward?
Don't play as much cricket. I mean, look, India have been accused, the BCCI has been accused so often in the past of wielding its power, flexing its muscles in world cricket and all that kind of stuff. The truth of the matter is that, for like, until probably Kerry Packer came up with the World Series, like from the entire history of cricket before that was ruled by England, and they had all the power, and they call Lords the home of cricket. I mean, Dubai's the home of cricket now, isn't it? That's where the ICC headquarters is, right? It's not Lords anymore. It's not the ECB and the MCC and all these guys who have the power anymore. So that changed. Then Australia kind of had a bit of a sort of powerful period in terms of the economics of the game. They might not have been the best side. It was the West Indies, of course, through the late 70s into the mid-90s, early 90s, and then Australia in terms of playing. But in terms of the politics and the power and the money, it was all Australia, really. A tour to Australia would be very beneficial financially for any team because of the interest of, the TV rights and all that kind of stuff over there. The day-night cricket, of course, came into it with Kerry Packer and all that. And then since the IPL, or maybe just before the IPL, it's been all India, hasn't it? I mean, through the 90s, there was that boom with Tendulkar and all the sponsors getting on board with Indian cricket and night cricket. And they must have played so much ODI cricket in that decade. They hardly played a test match, really, did they, for the entire 90s? There was the odd 2-test series, 3-test series here and there. But it was kind of, just before the IPO into the 2000s, the mid-2000s, and India really started to wield that power. So it comes in cycles. It might be the case that the power goes back to somebody else in years to come. It probably won't because of India's population and, everything else that goes before it and the economics of it all. But look, India's got the power now, but it's almost like they're the charity for world cricket because everyone is lining up to play India. Everyone wants to play India. Pakistan have been begging to play India for a long time, and we would love to see that happen, but because of politics, it won't. But the fact they keep asking the question, almost begging, really, what Ramiz Raja came in and he wanted that quadrangular series with India and Australia and England, and the fact that India would be there would obviously make them a lot of money because of TV rights. So India are almost giving out freebies to everybody, just handouts. Like New Zealand are coming to India. India have been to New Zealand in such a short space of time. Meaningless bilateral series, really. I know they have to get some of these ODIs in for the other teams to be able to, line up in that championship table ahead of the World Cup and all that. India, of course, have already qualified. But they just like this tour to Bangladesh and then, New Zealand coming and then Sri Lanka coming to India, almost straight after the new year. And obviously Australia are coming. That's the big tour, you would say, which is one of those scheduled in tours, 4 test matches, Border Gavaskar Trophy, the iconic series, which, has to be played every 4 years in, each country. So every 2 years they do play each other. So that's fine. But there's just too much of this meaningless white ball cricket. And they just need to take a step back. And I think India are almost being too nice in terms of, the fact that they're so powerful and so rich. And they're, there's so much value attached to this Indian cricket team that everyone wants to play them. Yeah, but you've got to almost take a step back and say, well, hang on, we just can't do that because our cricket is suffering at the end of the day. And there's not only all that, Sarah, the schedules come out now. So Sri Lanka come straight off. I mean, they're in Bangladesh right now, by the way, and they've still got, an ODI and 2 tests to play. So that's going to take a lot out of a lot of those players. Then there's obviously Christmas time. And then straight off the back of New Year's, on the 3rd of January, Sri Lanka come.
Yeah.
Then New Zealand come. Then Australia come, and the Australia tour is very long. Then it's the IPL.
Yeah.
When do these players get time to rest?
Yeah. Your points were fair, about all true points. BCCI should step back, but is that really going to happen? Like, for that might be, they are making money off it and all of that. So do you really think that is what the BCCI is going to do? Because no matter what, any Indian cricket match still gets in money, still gets in revenue, still has crores of people watching. Crores, like not even thousands, billions of people are watching an Indian cricket team play. And it's just
Why though? Why, Sarah? Because India have always been fairly successful, even like when they weren't dominating world cricket. Like we talked before the Dhoni era, and even when Ganguly came in, they started winning a little bit more consistently. Even before that, they always had they had star players. Like when the whole TV boom came in, Sachin was there, and he was the golden boy, and that carried on for so many years. So that was a big reason people want to see Sachin bat. And when he gets out, often a lot of people tuned out. Then there became the sort of the big three with Dravid and Ganguly, and then all these stars started to come into it. So there was that star power, and there was the fact that India could compete, and obviously cricket's the national sport now, and all that kind of stuff. But do they want to see a team that doesn't know what it's doing, can't perform at ICC tournaments, just bottles it, gets it wrong with combination, selection, all that kind of stuff? Are the Indian viewing public not now waking up to these kind of things where you mentioned it before? Not many people cared about New Zealand. Not many people care about Bangladesh, particularly if India just went and won the series. It's only a story now because India haven't won. But then because they haven't won, do you want to watch this side losing to Bangladesh? Do people really want to see all that? Yeah. Why would you want to? I mean, all right, World Cup's on. Everyone watches the World Cup because there's a hope that you might win it. But who wants to watch a losing side? Surely the BCCI have to get this side winning. And the best way to do that is put in a plan where these players aren't burnt out. Or you pick different players for different formats.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly my plan. Like T20Is, ODIs. Like if you go through the schedule, there is adequate time between ODI series and T20I series. So just pick different squads. That's what I have been saying again and again. So this test match ends last week of December. The T20Is begins from 3rd January till 7th January. And the ODI is from 10 January. So that would give the players around 14. I know it's not long enough, but okay, even if they want to rest the Sri Lanka series, which I don't think they should, because, with the World Cup coming, there are not a lot of ODIs. But the likes of KL Rahul and the Virat Kohlis and all, they don't have to play the T20Is anymore. Like, it's just easy. Like, if you make a separate T20I team, a separate ODI team, I think that will not only give the players a little bit of security about their places, but there'll be more team unity, and you never know, that the winning factor might come back, and people might be interested to watch these youngsters doing well. So that's what I've been saying for a long time. Just make different squads. After that, there are the ODIs against New Zealand, and then the ODI players will get adequate rest before the test series begins, because a lot of ODI players are in the test squad. They don't have to play the T20Is. Just make a different T20I squad altogether and just stick with them for the 2024 World Cup. It shouldn't be the case where, the likes of Sanju Samson, I don't know if he's going to play also or not, but I'm just saying, the likes of Sanju Samson, he's in the T20I team, then just he's not in your ODI plans. I don't see him in ODI plans right now. Then just stick with him in T20Is and go with the same bunch of players for the 2024 World Cup also. And I don't think that's going to be too hard, or, with so much of cricket being played, you have to find answers to how you're going to tackle this. And this is something which England are also doing. They also play a lot of cricket, but they have different squads, and very few players play all three formats. So this is what the Indian team, I think, going forward should also do that. And the fact that this is still not happening is what is the BCCI thinking? And yeah, after the test series, they'll get a very short break before the ODIs begin. So the ODI series ends on 22nd March. I don't think the test players are going to play the ODI series. But then again, so they'll play the entire test series and then the ODIs are there. So will the Kohlis and the Rohit Sharmas not play the ODI series, but then, with the 2023 World Cup, they should play the ODI series. So, yeah, the schedule is a mess. But what they can control, like right now, obviously not make such weird schedules, but also just have different squads and just stick with it. I think that's one easy answer. And the IPL is going to begin not soon after, and 22nd March the ODIs ends, and I'm assuming a couple of days later the IPL will begin. So, yeah, hectic. And just one question, like, do you think the IPL, of course, it's given us a lot of positives, in the end is doing a lot more harm to Indian cricket? I know it's a very controversial topic and all, but it's a little different.
Look,
Yeah.
I love the IPL as a lot of people do, and it gives me great joy to be able to work on it every year, commentating on the games for the BBC. So, I love it from that aspect. But in terms of Indian cricket, you're right. It's a great tournament, but does it need to be going on this long? I mean, there's now 10
It's
teams.
going to be longer.
It's going to
Yeah.
become longer. It's probably going to become a 3-month tournament, and it's just too much, isn't it? Because how can you schedule all this other international cricket around it? Because then you've only got 9 months of the year. Difficult one. And you're right. Look, England, great example. I think the only guy I can think of who consistently plays all three formats of cricket is Mark Wood, and he's always injured. So that shows you what it does. But apart from that, they're winning in Test cricket, they're winning in white ball cricket. That as much as it might hurt the ego and the pride of Indians and the BCCI to look at England and say that they're the benchmark, unfortunately they are right now. It's not the Aussies anymore. It's England. Be like England. That's the answer, right?
Yeah. Even Australia, actually, they have totally different squads. Like, I think they were playing a test series in Pakistan, and the entire different but a strong team was playing in Sri Lanka. It wasn't a B team or whatever in any aspect. So, why can't India do the same?
Absolutely. And the Aussies have copied England as well. So they've eaten their pride and ego to do that as well. Right. Enough chat about the men. We could be all day here discussing that, getting quite depressed about it as well. Attention turns to the women after this short break as they prepare to take on Australia.
If you love the language of cricket and want more, then head over to the 99.94 app and you can hear all of our podcasts and cricket commentary. We're adding new shows all the time and covering cricket series from all over the world. Be the first to hear all of our announcements by following us on social media at 9994DM. Welcome to Cricket's Conversation.
So India's women finally back in action, Sarah. You see, this is the difference, isn't it? India's men just play all the time, 12 months a year. India's women, there's massive gaps between their series, but Australia have arrived in India, and this is all set up to be an exciting series. Australia got a couple of players missing, of course. India have ran them close, both in Australia, at major tournaments. They've had their moments where they could have, won those finals in the Commonwealth, in the T20 World Cup. They obviously beat them in the ODI World Cup in England, famously in 2017 as well. So they've had their moments against this Australian side. Is now the time where you think they can go on and win the series and make a real sort of mark on world cricket?
I hope they can, because matches are in Mumbai, free entry for the public. So I just hope that many people can go in, and if they can win a series against the world champions, it's just going to, do huge things for women's cricket. I know the IPL has been announced. The teams, who are the teams, we still don't know it. Typical BCCI behavior. But if they can win, it's just going to be at home, especially with people watching. It's going to be a huge occasion for them. And just one more thing, like Shafali and Richa Ghosh are not in the squad for. They are in the squad, but they're missing the last few T20Is because they are in the under-19 World Cup squad. It has got a lot of criticism because the two have a total match, like they've played 111 matches together, so there's a lot of criticism about the senior pros playing in age group cricket and all. I don't know what you feel about that, but I am totally in favor of it. So are you against it, in favor of it?
Look, it's obviously not against the rules, which is why they're doing it. I don't think you're allowed to do that in men's cricket, though. Once you've played a full international, I don't think or it's just not the done thing anyway. I'm not sure what the exact rules are in men's cricket.
I think Saudis played international before under 19.
So
and all
obviously
that.
you are allowed, but it's just not the done thing. And I think, to be honest, I think rightly so. I think once you've played full international cricket, especially, not just had one cap or a couple of caps here and there, once you've played as much as they have, they're integral members of this side. Shafali's, burst onto the world scene. She's a permanent fixture across all formats. Richa Ghosh, another one as well, who's really come into it in the last 12, 18 months as a real consistent member of every squad. Mm-hmm. And for them to go and play in the Under-19 World Cup, it's not fair on not just the other sides, because you go in a tournament to win, but it's not fair necessarily that they're taking up two places for other girls that could be other under-19 cricketers from India who could potentially take those places and get that exposure to a big tournament. And then these other two that might miss out could be now 18 years old, and by the next one they're 20, and they're not going to be eligible. So that could ruin the development of other players as well. So I think that's the reason why it's not done. Rahul Dravid came up with a great rule for the boys under-19s, where if you play in one World Cup, you can't play in another. So there's even that, because of the amount of talent that there is in India as well, that even if you're 14 and you play in an under-19 World Cup, that's it, you're done.
That was
the
also
next
to
one.
remove age fraud in
age fraud as well. Yeah. There was that, but he did sort of make the point that it was also because you should then, if you're good enough to play under-19 World Cup at that age, whatever age you are, you might be 16, for example, right? Then by the time you're 18 and the next World Cup comes around, you should have really developed into first-class cricket and knocking on the door of either the international team or the India A side or, IPL teams or whatever. So you should have developed from then anyway. And if you haven't, then you're probably not good enough anyway. So there is that as well. So, look, I don't agree with it, but good luck to them. And it certainly gives India a great chance of winning that World Cup with two gun players there.
Yeah, that's exactly. I am conflicted about this, but I am a little in favor of it because I'm like, the Indian women's team, they need a trophy just to change, hopefully, the attitude, like the attitude of the BCCI towards them or whatever it is. And if the presence of Shafali and Richard does that, then good for them. Like, because while we are comparing, a lot of people have said that, Dravid's quotes about how the under-19 is a platform for exposure, etc., etc. While that is true, that is a little applicable for the men's sport, I think, and for the women's, it's like losing somehow is not an option for them, because all of this lax attitude of the administrators are, despite the women's team doing so well in the last 2 years, they've been more consistent in world events than the men's team, you can say. So despite that, they're just given second-hand treatment, and a title or trophy can change so much, especially if it helps in developing the grassroots levels and all. So I can see both sides to it, but while I see the positives also, and I'm like, it's not the worst move to have Shafali and Richa if it increases India's chances of winning, and hopefully there is a growth, even 1% growth in women's cricket because of that trophy. So that's my 2 pence on it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, understood. And good luck to both of them, both with the India women's senior team first against Australia and then heading into that under-19 World Cup as well. We wish them all the best of luck. Right, that's all we've got time for on this episode. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be back soon.